The Palestinian cause speaks to every American.
Something strange about how Hamas's existence directly aligns with Israel's narrative and Israel's interests.
And he literally grabbed my brother in a chokehold, little 5-year-old, and he put a gun to his head.
This is the Ansari podcast. Ustadh Morad Awad, thank you so much for joining the podcast, man. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair.
Appreciate you coming on. I know this was last minute, but the situation right now is dire in what's happening across the world.
Ya wallah. Oh my God.
So what's Palestine looking like right now? What's happening on the ground there?
So right now it's a dangerous reality. And what we're seeing today, it's a concentration camp. It's literally a concentration camp, right? They're depriving them of the basic needs of life. They don't have clean water. They can't get all the nutritional needs. They like cement was blocked from them the past 6 months, even before this conflict, right? So they can't even build up what was demolished. And for the past 17 years, since 2006, Hamas has been the official government of Gaza, right? And since then, it's been blockaded. There have been like 5 wars that were waged by Israel on the people of Hamas. Every single time it was disproportionate. Every single time it was self-defense from the Gazan side. Every single time the more Palestinians would die. Like I'm talking about in multiples, right? In multiples. And they're using this claim, it's unfortunate. Israel uses this claim that people still believe. And it's actually funny that people still believe this claim that, they're taking it as human. They're taking these civilians as human shields. And I'm wondering, I'm like, okay, are the fighters going to be in the mosques, the universities, the hospitals, in the buses that were transporting the refugees from north to south? Yesterday, 40 people were bombed, right? A missile dropped on a bus of civilians that were moving from north to south, following the Israeli army's announcement to move, right? And then they bombed that street too, and they killed several civilians there. So they're obviously after civilians. It's not even like whoever says that that Hamas is using these civilians as human shields, is still living in a delusion.
Oh, and they so outrightly say that.
Oh yeah, they're delusional. People. They're delusional. Like, okay, so Hamas, how many fighters are there? 16, 20, 30,000? I don't know. However much. They're blocking food, water, medical supplies, electricity from who? From 2 million people. Collective punishment, right? Just blockading all of them, punishing all of them. Punishing the wombs that gave birth to people that would accept Hamas as a group to be in, right? It's a faction of many factions that exist in Gaza, right? Fatah, Hamas, Jihad Islami, Hizb al-Demokrati, Jabha Sha'bi. There's so many different groups, right? But you're dropping this collective punishment on everyone, and then you're claiming that you're only fighting one group, right? So. Yeah.
I actually wanted to talk to you about this. So this is Israeli army pouring cement into Palestinian wells, but they've been doing this even before the conflict.
Dude, they've been doing it since I was a kid and I lived in Palestine.
SubhanAllah. Yeah. And then I wanted to talk to you about this, which is the understanding the terrorist playbook, which is something that all elites across the world are using.
Okay.
And they use this as a moral and political tool to destroy their enemies or political opponents, right? It seems that when they want to scare their people, whether it's America entering Iraq and Afghanistan, even though Saudis and Egyptians who did it, or China to the Uyghurs, or France to the Muslims, or Israel to the Palestinians, or even Muslim governments themselves against their political opponents, using this terrorist playbook where they always say, oh, well, there's a terrorist, right? The Uyghurs in China, the Chinese people think that the Uyghurs are terrorists.
Yeah.
Muslims in the Muslim world think that whoever the political opponent of the dictator they have are terrorists, right? Especially even if you look at how much power the United States gained after 9/11, both nationally and internationally. 9/11 allowed America to pass the Patriot Act and other acts that have allowed the NSA and FBI and CIA to become the powerhouses they are today. They didn't have the political power or or lawful power that they have today, and how much they can spy on citizens. And as well as internationally, America started 2 wars based off the excuse of 9/11. And it seems like something that Israel uses quite a bit with Hamas is the exact same playbook.
Yeah.
We're going to say they're terrorists, and they may very well be, but we're going to use this excuse of terrorism to do much more than that. Something strange about how Hamas's existence, just existence alone, directly aligns with Israel's narrative and Israel's interests. As long as Hamas exists, as long as an enemy exists, Israel can continue to protect itself. Because if you look at it, the Iron Dome that they have, one of the best defenses in the world. Israel has one of the best military defenses, both air and land, in the world. They have one of the best intelligence in the world. They're so good at intelligence that even the CIA learns from them, and MI6 learns from them in Britain. That's how good Israeli intelligence is. And somehow they missed this attack. Somehow. And even Israelis are starting to speculate that this was something that Netanyahu either enabled or allowed to happen.
That's far-fetched, to be honest. Yeah, knowing Israel the way it is, and understanding what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about them, وَلَتَجِدَنَّهُمْ أَحْرَصَ النَّاسِ عَلَى حَيَاةٍ, and you will find them to be the most they preserve their lives the most. No matter how they're living, no matter what they're eating, as long as they're alive, right? So they protect their lives very well, and I don't think they mess around with this because, but by the way, Israel it lost so much with this attack. I don't think it could have been that because they lost so much with it. Number one, they lost their credibility. Like the Iron Dome, it lost its credibility. Like they used to say, "Oh, nothing goes through." What do you mean? Like everything goes through. It looks like they could even, like right now, Hamas is even saying where it's going to land and exactly what time it's going to land. Like they won't be able to do that unless they can overcome the dome, right? The same thing with this fence. They were trying to sell it, right? They were trying to sell it to other countries, saying that our wall can prevent anyone from going through it. Like it's impossible. It's unpenetrable. And then boom, it was, 15 or 18 different places. Within 30 minutes, it was penetrated in 18 different spots, right? So I think it was a mishap. It was their intelligence. There was a gap. There was a gap there, and they admitted it. It's not something they all admitted it, right? Today, the Shabbat, the head of the Shabbat forces, and that's their highest intelligence. I think the equivalent of like the NSA or something, right? In Israel, he said, look, this was, he's like, I take complete blame. Is our shortcoming. We couldn't read it. We didn't know it's coming. X, Y, and Z. The intelligence that they use against us. Every single Palestinian has a profile in their system. Did you know an Israeli could randomly take a picture of a Palestinian and upload their image into a database that everyone has, right? And then they create a profile for that. So every Palestinian has that. You're walking in the West Bank. Just by walking in a checkpoint, it automatically identifies your face, pulls up the database, rings you up and says whether you're a threat and what level of threat you are before you even get into the checkpoint. Like it's scanning people's faces. Like that's how much subjugation they're going through, right? And they're losing their land. They're losing everything. So that is what's fueling the military, the combat oriented groups in Palestine. And I think that's why before I speak to anyone, I ask, are you with the oppressed or with the oppressor? Okay, if they say we're with the oppressed, okay, let's find out who's oppressed. Whose land was taken, whose property was confiscated, more innocent lives were killed, who's is entrapped, who is not given a decent living, who's not given basic human rights that are guaranteed to every human being according to the United Nations and peace treaties and resolutions and whatnot, right? So, and you would easily come to the conclusion that the Palestinians are oppressed in this conflict. The second, does a person have the right to defend themselves? My kids are watching the news, right? And as they're sitting watching the news, Bobo, what's happening? There's a war Is this what's going on? Why is Ammo's house demolished? Why did my cousin get killed? Why? Yesterday I was just calling my cousin, calling a friend of mine, and he said my whole 13-floor apartment got leveled. His father worked 40 years to build it, 40 years, and it got leveled in a second. Right? So I think it's very, what's happening is very sad, and it shows us how susceptible people are and how weak they are towards this propaganda. And to show you how much Israel feels threatened by the truth. Although we don't have weapons, we don't have intel, we don't have technology like they have. All we have is the word. And they're so threatened by this word that we have to say. What I'm saying right now, they are so threatened by it that they flag posts, they close accounts, they block people. They got bots just commenting and flooding people's comments on their Twitters and on their Facebooks and whatnot, because they know if this truth that is very convincing, if it reaches the people and the masses, the people are going to believe it like that. They know that. Or else, okay, if you really feel like you have the truth, then why are you blocking? Why are you closing? Why are you blocking posts? Why are you removing posts? Why are you flooding these accounts with these bots and whatnot, right? Why are you doing all these things? Just let it be.
I was just saying to my friend the other day that knowing the kindness and the justice in the hearts of Americans, if they actually knew and saw what was happening in Palestine, they would immediately be with Palestinians.
100%.
There would be no issue.
100%. You know why? Because I believe the Palestinian cause speaks to the American people. Anyone who studied the history of America, the history of the Revolutionary War, and the struggle against the British colonization to attain freedom and to be able to write your future down, to build a constitution yourself, and to stand up for what's true. Like, I believe the Palestinian cause, the way we see it as Palestinians, speaks to every American. And if they saw Israel as the colonizer, they would not stand with them for a moment.
In which they are.
Yeah. And they're standing with them because they're misinformed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where our job comes, to put the truth out, to let the people know what's going on in reality, and, I believe that America loves, like, once they see the values of Islam in practice, they automatically love it. Like, I was listening to a podcast, Joe Rogan, talking about the Muslim fighters in the UFC. He's like, these people are so family oriented. They're dedicated. They don't mess around and go around like, parties and wasting their money, blowing it for nothing. No, they have a purpose, right? And family to them is number one. I think that speaks to every American. Mm-hmm. I think Americans and when they actually meet a Muslim, when they see a Muslim, you notice that their perspective changes.
Yeah.
The moment they meet a Muslim, they're like, oh, wow, these people aren't so bad. And that's why like my neighbors, I talk to them, and, the first thing they did was, like, when they saw what's happening, like, oh my God, what's going on here? These terrorists are attacking. How's your family? Is your family safe? They don't even know. They know we're Muslim. They don't even know which side we're on. They don't even know that we're the side of the Palestinians. We're actually oppressed by the Israelis. They have no idea. But you know what? They know what they hear in church. And they know what they hear on Fox News or CNN, whatnot. And it's, I think it's our job, man. Mahmoud, it's our job. Our word is all we got. And we got to spread it. We got to let people know what's happening. More than 1,000 children now killed in Gaza. Where are your sorrows? Is innocent blood equal in your eyes? Is one innocent Israeli life equal to one innocent Palestinian life or not? If you say no, then I have nothing to tell you. Simple as that. If you said no, they're not equal, the Israeli life is more valuable, then you know what? We can't even talk, because I need to teach you how to be a human, right? I need to literally teach you how to be a human first, because me as a Muslim, I'm obliged to believe that they're equal. This innocent life is an innocent life, right? And if I see it as like, oh no, he's Muslim, his life is more valuable. No, an innocent life is an innocent life, right? And that's what God tells us in the Quran.
Yeah.
So,
I think their claim that 40 Israeli babies were killed was CNN came out and said
dude,
that was wrong.
that lie is being spread so much and at such a high level. The president even said it. It came out of the White House. That lie came out of the White House, right? And the 100 children that were killed the day after on the Palestinian side, that didn't even make the news. Joe Biden didn't get that memo. Nobody got that memo, right? Either they don't care or they don't know. And apathy is worse than ignorance, to be honest. Like, if they don't care, then we can't help them, right? If you just don't care about Palestinians, then, dude, you got to go find humanity in your heart.
So you really don't think that Hamas's existence aids Israel in its occupation of Palestine?
Well, there's a way. Fatah's existence can aid Israel too. Look, since Fatah came, they occupied most of the West Bank. Like, you could use that.
And
with
Israel doesn't mind Fatah?
No, Israel. Israel doesn't mind Fatah either, because look at Fatah has what they call tansiq amni in Arabic. Like, they have a security agreement, right? They cooperate.
I think George Soros, search this up real quick. George Soros, literally a year ago, ridiculed. George Soros is a prominent Jewish you can call him a philanthropist, but he's an American investor. Yeah, he's a billionaire. And he ridiculed Israel for its lack of wanting to make peace talks or negotiations with Hamas. Mm-hmm. And he told them that would backfire. But I think one of the...
It contributes. It depends how you look at it.
Give me a convincing reason why it shouldn't be the case. Because when in Egypt, when a dictator there wants something to go his way, he just blows up a car. And as soon as he blows up a car, he can do whatever he wants, right? Yeah. He just blames it on the Muslim Brotherhood, and now we got to go kill Muslim Brotherhood members and put them in prison. So why wouldn't that be the same tactic that's used across the world? Why are you saying that it's not used in Israel with Hamas?
I wouldn't think so, because it's so close to home to them. It's such a security threat. Like, right now, like, I don't think people need to understand how much Israel is losing. Right? Like, this war is going to cost a lot. Now, 300,000 reservists that are off of their regular jobs, that are coming in to go into combat, their economy is on hold. People are leaving in swarms, right? Whether by ships or by plane, people just leave it. Like, this affects the stability of the country, right? And nobody I believe, would risk that, and I don't think that... Yeah, I believe it's like, okay, this is a different pathway that another Palestinian faction took towards achieving independence, right? And towards restoring their land, right? And
I don't think Israel saw this coming, though. I don't think Israel saw this coming at all. And I also don't think they're losing that much money, because the military-industrial complex, along with Zionist elites that are in this whole, web of military-industrial complex in America, and finances and Vanguard and BlackRock and so on. And those companies are making billions off of this situation right now.
Mm-hmm. I don't think... You first need to understand the value of Israel in the Middle East. Israel is there for security. The West wants security in that region, correct? And that's why it's such a valuable ally. When Israel's insecure, the region's insecure. When the region's insecure, it's up for grabs for any group or faction. And that's why this area has to stay stable, or else why does everyone want peace, right? Why is everyone saying there has to be two states, there has to be peace, there has to be sovereignty, and so on and so forth? And I just, how long can you sanction a people? How long can you blockade them? How long can you deprive them before they start to think to themselves, hey, we're dying anyway. Why not just die with a fight? You're killing us, slowly. So these people are dehumanizing our, people, civilians, and because of their dehumanization, people are accepting of this genocide that's taking place right now, right? It's genocide. This is according to the United Nations. It's not something that we say as Palestinians. No, the whole world recognizes Israel as an occupying force in the West Bank. So they are occupiers, number one. Number two, they are increasing settlements, especially under the government of Benjamin Netanyahu. He is a hardline right wing. He just wants to basically eradicate anything called Palestine, get rid of the Palestinian people, and that rhetoric began with him. Like the strong rhetoric and the plans to completely take over the West Bank. And this is exactly what they did. And then all the villages and the towns, the Palestinian villages and towns, are pretty much closed off. Every main road bloodline that leads to that city has a big a blockage. It has a gate, and it constantly has Israeli soldiers waiting there. They could close the whole city, lock it down. They could pretty much, just like they did the last 10 days, they could lock down and paralyze all the movement in the West Bank in one day. Just one call. All right, stop it. They close the doors, soldiers post up, and that's it. Nobody could go anywhere. It's totally under their control.
Can you pull Rahim up this? You said the West Bank. Should we just search up the West Bank?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah. So that's the West Bank right there, right? So if you see the Quds, Jerusalem, right there in the center. So Eastern Jerusalem is, according to the United Nations, the capital of the proposed Palestinian state, right? Mm-hmm. But that obviously never happened.
And Trump gave it to them.
And Trump pretty much gave them the whole thing. Yeah. He just recognized the whole thing, East and Western Jerusalem, as the capital of Israel, which created a lot of turmoil. And, it's a product of, I think, the bad policies, right, that were taken by Israel as an occupying force. They never really wanted peace. They never expressed that they want peace. And they never, even if they said it, they never showed anything in practicality, right? There's nothing on paper, nothing on the land that shows that they ever wanted peace, right? What they're doing to our brothers and sisters in Gaza is a whole different ballgame, right? So Gaza...
Gaza's down here.
Down here. If we could zoom into that.
It's that strip in the
exactly
southeast.
So Gaza's small, right? Gaza is very small, and it's the most densely populated area in the world. There's 2.2 million people in that small strip of land right there.
Wow.
Yeah, 2.2 million people, and
see how big Gaza is, like.
The square footage?
Yeah. Like square miles.
Or square miles or square kilometers.
So what are they doing right now to Gaza and to the West Bank?
So Gaza was, so it's right there, 140 square miles.
140 square.
Yeah.
And 2 million people.
About 2 million people. Yeah, so if you divide that, that's like...
Wow. The Gaza Strip is 25 miles long.
Yeah.
6 to 12 kilometers wide.
Dude, 25 miles. That's what I drove from my house to here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like driving from my house to here took me about 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a trip from the suburbs to the city.
The north to the south, right there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all of Gaza.
2 million people.
And 2 million people live in that.
And
small strip.
Isn't there an equivalent amount of Palestinians as Israelis? Population-wise?
Believe it or not, the Palestinians are still more than the Israelis.
In population?
Yeah, in population. With all of that. So I think inside and out, like Palestinians are... So the Palestinians inside of Palestine are about 5-6 million, right? But outside of Palestine, some estimates are saying they go up to about 20 million. Palestinians all over the world, distributed, right? So I don't think
Rahim,
people are
let's try again. Let's try again. I
Is this it? Let's see that.
We are operating militarily according to rules of international law, period. It's not true. This rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved, it's absolutely not true.
אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
לא הם, לא אמא שלהם, לא הילדה שלהם, לא התינוקות שלהם. אסור להם לחיות בחיות האלה.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, finish them. Finish them.
We will fight until we break their backbone.
Do whatever the hell you have to do to defend yourself. Level the place.
I hope that they are showing Hamas just this much of the wrath of God.
Israel has every right under the laws of war to strike back.
I think that Israel does have that right.
بدكم جهنم راح تحصلوا على جهنم.
The war is not just with Hamas. The war with all the civilians.
That guy said it.
He's an Israeli soldier that said that. It's a heartbreaking video. SubhanAllah, that little baby has gone through more than I ever have.
Dude.
It's a baby.
Dude, you have no idea what these people went through. These people, like, okay, let's think of the Hamas fighter. How old do you think the average Hamas fighter is right now? The foot soldier.
I have no idea.
Like, just what age is a soldier
30?
typically? 30 years old. So this person lived through 6 wars and 2 intifadas, right?
What's an intifada?
Intifada is like when the people just rebel, against, like, there was one in 2001 to 2003, a big intifada, right? And then the 2006 war, then 2008 and 9, then 2014, and then, like, so many of these wars. This person saw all these images. You see what we just saw? That is what's playing in the head and in the mind of every single fighter in that group.
And every Palestinian.
You're telling me that these people saw so much. The Palestinians are fed up and are sick and tired of this world. This world is hypocritical, man. This world, when they cry and it's fake. It's fake sorrow. That's all it is. If you truly had sorrow, then you would cry for every innocent life. If you felt bad, you'd feel bad for every child. But that's not the case, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's a sad reality, man. What we just saw right now is heartbreaking. Right? These are innocent children just sleeping at night. Dude, you want to fight Hamas? Just go in and fight. Right? Go and try to fight them. Find them and fight them. Why are you fighting, leveling buildings with innocent people in it? That's so disproportionate. There's no symmetry, man. There's none whatsoever.
One's a global superpower and the other's people living in a concentration
camp. A superpower supported by superpowers with billions of dollars of funding, the most sophisticated military equipment. And then on the other side, you just have people that are trying to make ends meet.
They're a nuclear superpower. They just won't admit it.
No, they won't admit it, of course.
But they have nuclear weapons.
Oh, yeah, a lot
of
nuclear warheads too, man.
Yeah.
And the only reason they won't use it on Palestinians is because of the vicinity.
Yeah, it's right next to them.
Because it's right next to them. It'll be threatening to them.
You want to show? There's also this video of a Chicago kid. This American said it so beautifully. This one will be easier to find, inshallah. All right, go easy on me. So this father right here, by the way, Arwa Ibrahim posted this. He said, "I did the strangest thing today. I exchanged my child with my brother's. I took 2 of his children and he gave me 2 of mine. And he gave me 2 of his. So in case I get bombed, one of mine will survive. And if he gets bombed, one of his will
What kind of decision? Imagine having to make that decision. Dude, the apartheid. Did you know Nelson Mandela visited Palestine, right?
I did not.
Yeah, he visited Palestine and he saw the condition. And he said that the situation of the Palestinians, the apartheid that they're living, is worse than the one in South Africa.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I think he gave a speech about the Palestinians too, and he said that the world won't be free until Palestinians are free.
Until Palestinians are free, exactly. I think the biggest lie that they made Americans believe is that Israel is the sole representative of Jews. Hence, if you do or say anything against the state of Israel, its policies, its conduct, its ethics, you're speaking about Jews. That shouldn't be equated. That equation is something we reject. That whole premise is something we reject. Do you get what I'm saying? It doesn't represent all Jews. It literally doesn't. There are Jews that are not in Israel, right? And they don't agree with Israel. So,
do you think that, why is it that Muslims care so much about the conflict between Israel and Palestine, while there are many atrocities and oppressive states happening to Muslims, such as the Uyghurs to China, and in Yemen, what Saudi Arabia is doing to Yemen, India, Burma, France, and others? Because you mentioned it isn't anti-Semitic. Then why is it that Muslims care so much about the Israeli conflict?
So look, there's so many conflicts around the Muslim world, but the one political cause that unites every Muslim in the world is Palestine. There's only one political cause. There's literally, I don't think you could find a single political cause that unites every Muslim in the world except for Palestine.
And why is that?
Because
Other than the spiritual.
No, because every Muslim sees the justice in it. You see, a Muslim can't buy into like the Zionist narrative. It just, it's counter-Islamic. It's
counter-Jewish.
It's counter-Jewish and counter-Christian. It's counter-faith. Like you are commanded by God to be just in your assessment of things. And in order to be just, you have to judge it. And not only that, it's because they see their Muslim brothers and sisters being killed unjustly, right? On the day-to-day basis. It's constantly happening. This conflict has been ongoing. So as Muslims, we kind of inherit it, right? From generation to generation, we inherit the cause of Palestine, right? So you go to like Algeria, for example, right? Whenever there's like a soccer game, Algeria is far away from Palestine. But when the Palestinian soccer team goes to play in Algeria against the Algerian team, the Algerians are chanting for Palestine, right? They're not even chanting. They have Palestinian flags, and these are Algerian fans, right? Just to show you the solidarity. And the Algerian team actually loses the game on purpose. It's a strong team. And the Palestinians score on them, and they're fine with it. And they hug their brothers, and they're like, we're with you. Just to show them solidarity, right? And you cannot find a single, probably like protest in any single Muslim nation without a Palestinian flag, right? So this Palestinian flag, actually, and this is why perhaps they don't want the Palestinian flag to be hung, like in France and Germany and UK, they're debating whether they should make it outlawed to wave the Palestinian flag. Why? Because these flags were made to divide the nations. These flags were tailored and given to the governments of these small Muslim nations so that they could take pride in it more than their own faith and the people that they belong to. But this flag made its way, although it's not even a country in the whole nation state breakdown of the world, Palestine hasn't received its sovereignty, but this flag became the one that unites Muslims across the globe. Right? And that's why they're attacking the flag now, because it's like, hey, this became the flag of Muslims now, which is kind of dangerous. Exactly. It became a symbol of unity. So alhamdulillah, for that, this is something that they definitely didn't take into account. They definitely didn't prepare for. They didn't design this flag for it to be that way. But hey, it's what it is. Right? And it's their failure to address the Palestinian struggle that made it that way. And then so long as people are in concentration camps, the occupations continued, and Palestinians don't have their freedom and their land back, the situation is just going to Just stay the way it is.
Yeah.
Right?
I
Simple
think
as
for
that.
me, when someone asked me that very question, it was actually a white American that asked me that question as to why do Muslims care so much about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and not about all the other equally as bad conflicts across the world that's happening to Muslims. My response to him was, one is maddening and the other one isn't, right? Because if you ask any American or anyone across the world, is what China doing to the Uyghurs, is that correct? They'll tell you absolutely not. Is what Saudi Arabia doing to Yemen, is that correct? They'll tell you no.
Russia doing to Ukraine.
Russia doing to Ukraine, they'll tell you no. So it almost, it's a gift and a curse in that it puts our heart at ease. At least you see the reality I see. But when it comes to the Israel-Palestinian conflict, it's so maddening for us as Muslims because we see the truth. We see exactly what's happening. And non-Muslims too see the truth, see exactly what's happening, the ones that are on our side. And then somehow there's a group of people, so many of them too, that we love and thought were our friends and stuff, and are on the sides of the oppressors. And that's what makes it hurt so much. To me, at least,
It does, man.
is because I don't know a single person supporting China in their genocide of the Uyghurs, but I know many supporting Israel in their genocide of the Palestinians.
They won't. And that's why I simply ask, like, when people tell me, like, dude, if your house was invaded, you're an American, you're a Texan. You know, I'm here in Texas, right? I'm like, you're a Texan. Somebody comes to your house, takes it out. What are you going to do to that person? You know, it's as simple as that. It's not even, there's no explain. What if he says that my grandfather's grave is under your house? Like, dude, I built this house. You know, what are you talking about, this grave that of a grandfather from like 1,000 years ago? I don't care about your grandfather. I've been here for the past several hundred years. We built this house, me, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather, and we've been building it and improving it for this whole. Are you just going to tell him, yeah, you know, you deserve it? This was your grandfather's land back in the day before. Like, nobody would say that.
All right.
You know, nobody would say, not a single American would just give it up. I'm going to tell you that for sure. But
It's
what's
like
interesting is, what we're seeing right now is like, wow, they're still putting up a resistance. You're talking about 70 some odd years later, and the people are still putting up a fight and still resenting the occupation and refusing to admit, refusing to let go of their land. And, as a Palestinian, I'm telling you, Palestinians would never forget their land. As a people, Palestinians are a very proud people. They're not a watered down, washed away. You could see Palestinians all over the world. They've been in Chile for 40 years, 50, 60, 70 years, right? They could be in Siberia, but the Palestinian would always be proud to be a Palestinian and always raise a child to say, hey, you're going to go back to Palestine one day. Your house, your land is over there. You better go back and get it, right? We're not going to forget. And it's not our nature. It's not the way we were brought up as Palestinians. It's, we're kind of rooted into that land because these aren't a normal people in Palestine. Like, these people followed every prophet and message. Like, these are people whose ancestors followed Moses and the Torah, and they followed Jesus and the Bible and the gospel, and they followed Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Quran. So they followed everything. They've been following through, and that's why Isa alayhi salam, when he comes back, and that's another spiritual Jesus, peace be upon him, when he comes back as the Messiah, and we believe that too as Muslimin, right? When he comes back, he's going to come back to the same people that accepted him the first time. That's why he's going to come back to that land. He's not going to come to Wyoming. He's not going to go to China, right? He's not going to go to Paris. He's going to go to that land because that's the land that embraced him and accepted him. And those are the people that defended him the first time, right? So that's something deep.
And that's one of the issues, right? Is why Israel, evangelical Christians in the South, some even support Israel more than Israelis themselves. And it's because they have a religious belief that Jesus will come back when Jews are in control of Jerusalem, which is true also in the Islamic narrative. But this is why they basically tried to manufacture the rise of Jesus. And subhanAllah, in the 10 first verses in Surah Al-Kahf, the passage of the cave, Allah tells which is supposed to protect us from the Antichrist, right? Allah says to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, do not worry about the Christians. They will be the means to their own destruction. They will manufacture their own destruction.
Wow.
And subhanAllah, that you see them, they're the ones manufacturing this.
Yeah, they're creating this.
Yeah.
They're paving the way.
They're paving
for
the way.
this to happen. And it's ironic that they're the ones paving the way, since, you know, they believe that the Jews that they are supporting are the ones that killed who they believe is God.
Yeah.
And who persecuted their ancestors and their saints and their righteous men and women who brought their religion to them. You know, so it's very ironic. Former president of Israel, Ehud Barak, they told him, if you were Palestinian, what would you be? He's like, I'll be Hamas.
Wow.
He's the former,
serious?
yeah, he's the former Israeli president. He's the one, yeah, one of the ones, like the earlier ones, like in the early, I think it was the early 2000s.
Okay.
Yeah, this guy, like, I'm telling you, like, these guys are radical. You know, they're on some other, so they understand what resistance is.
What is the hardest part about this for you as a Palestinian?
Honestly, just living with the trauma.
What do you mean by that?
Just living and growing up. You know, like, I think a lot of people don't understand what it's like to grow up as a Palestinian. And me, I lived in Palestine for 5 years. My first night of living in Palestine, I woke up at 2 a.m. I was 9 years old, and I can't forget this memory. 3 soldiers were pointing their guns at me, their machine guns. And they bombarded our house. My mom was yelling. They came into the room. They were looking for weapons. They broke the door down. A year later, they took our land. I saw them push and shove and kick and beat. I saw my friends injured and killed. My cousins were killed. They're imprisoned. You know, my cousin is sentenced to 400 years in prison. Yeah, 400 years. Right? And
for what?
For being a Palestinian. If they stuck something to you, that's it. You're over. You're done. They say, oh, you did this, you did that, you did this, you did that. Boom, you're done. You'll never come out of prison.
Why did they go into it? You said, can you continue the story of the house?
Yeah. So they came into the house looking for weapons, looking for a gun. That's it. We grew up with that. I grew up when I was a kid. One of the settlers actually was passing by. He saw my brother on the street, little brother. He grabbed my brother, and my brother was about, I think I was like, at that time, I might have been 7 years old, and my brother was like 5. And he literally grabbed my brother in a chokehold, little 5-year-old, and he put a gun to his head in front of my mom, in front of my aunt, in front of everyone. He said, you want me to kill him? Right? That's trauma right there. You don't grow up normal, you know.
Why did he do that?
Just because he said, I think somebody, you know, he was passing through a village, someone threw a rock at his car, and he just wanted to come out and threaten, you know. He started shooting around. I got shot at before, you know. like you don't grow up, like, I'm 12 years old, and I hear bullets flying over my head, and I had to hide behind something so I don't get shot. You know, this is just me who lived in Palestine for 5 years. Imagine I lived in the West Bank. I didn't even live in Gaza. Imagine a Palestinian that's been there their whole life, their whole entire life. You know how hard it was for me to overcome this trauma. You know, when I remember when I got married, my wife is from Brooklyn, right? I'm from New Jersey. So Brooklyn is obviously the Jewish capital of America. And she lived right in the center of the Jewish neighborhood, like in Borough Park, right? And I remember going there when I was engaged, and whenever whenever I went to pick her up or to visit, we sit in the car, and then, you know, every time I'll see like a group of Jews, and, you know, I'll have to hold myself, right? It took me a while to feel like normal around Jews, to feel like these are other people of another faith, right? These aren't the ones that shot at me. These aren't the ones that tried to kill me. These aren't the ones that bombarded my house. These aren't the ones that stole my land. Do you get it? And for a Palestinian has to deal with all this baggage, right? I think a recent diagnosis, they went and they said most Palestinians have PTSD. Most Palestinians went through these traumas in their life. You know, like my kids right now. Okay, we go visit Palestine. Eventually, they're going to grow up and they're going to have friends there. And then they're gonna know, oh, what happened to Uncle Fulan? Oh, he got shot. Oh, what happened to this? Oh, he's in jail. Oh, when's he gonna come out? Oh, he's never gonna come out. He's sentenced to like 100 years, 200 years, 300 years in prison. They literally keep their bodies. I don't know if you know this.
No.
Yeah, my cousin, his body after he died was sentenced in prison. He's still there apparently in a refrigerator.
Oh, so 400 years, like actually,
yeah.
your dead body's even in prison
like,
after 400 years.
Yeah, not 400.
I mean,
the one that was sentenced 400 years, he's still alive. But this other one, he's sentenced to like, I think 500 or 600, and his body's still there.
What?
Frozen. They wouldn't even give it back to bury it.
That's insane.
It is insane. And one of my other cousins, Muhammad, at one of the checkpoints, they just randomly shot him. And they were doing this in the West Bank for a long time, by the way. They took his body and they took some organs out of him and they brought him back. And apparently Palestinians are like the organ drive for them. When they're looking for organs, they go shoot Palestinians and take them. And it's normal for a Palestinian to get their dead family member, mainly young, 18, 19, 20 years old, with their chest cut open.
Wow.
And missing organs, yes. People don't know about this stuff. This is day-to-day business for a Palestinian. We hear just 2 days ago, 4 of my cousins got shot in the West Bank. They're not even in Gaza. Just 2 days ago. You know, this news is normal for us, and it's so sad that it's normal. It's sad, like, and when you talk to Palestinian, he could talk about it and hold himself together.
And you said when you would see Jewish background people in America in the beginning, you first moved in,
yes.
How'd you feel? You felt fear or you felt anger?
It was both. You would see them completely different. What's interesting? Look, one time I was in Palestine. I was driving in a car with my wife and my kids. I was going to another town. Just to let you know, I got stopped on a checkpoint. They were searching all the cars, taking the guys out. Sometimes they arrest, they jail, they beat, they do all types of stuff. Sometimes they ask you for paperwork. They check the paperwork. They're like, let me see this. If it's all good, if you live in that village or town, they let you go through. Or if they doubt why you're there, they might question you in a prolonged way, you know? So when I was going to this village, it's not my village. My friend lived there. I stopped. And the guy's like, give me your Hawiya. But he was saying it in Hebrew. So I'm like, I don't speak Hebrew, man. Can you talk to me in English? He's like, oh, okay. I can talk to you in English. I'm like, man, you sound like a New Yorker. And he's like, I am a New Yorker. I'm like, where you from? Borough Park? He's like, no, Williamsburg. I'm like, dude, I live there. You know, I'm just here to visit. He's like, oh, which street? And I started like exchanging. And this guy actually is a Jew from Brooklyn that went there to Israel, got his citizenship, because every Jew gets citizenship, by the way. You'd be born in Palestine, but you'll never receive a passport or a Hawiya, a document to enter Palestine. But a Jew from Brooklyn that never been to Palestine, doesn't know what it's about, can go and receive citizenship and rights over my land more than I have. Just like that. So he's there. And I'm like, I want to ask you a question. He's like, what's up? I'm like, would you do this to me in Brooklyn if I actually met you in the streets of Brooklyn? He's like, yeah, it'll just be like another dude, you know? I'm like, yeah, and you will be too, you know? So what makes it different? He's like, you know, we're just here. You can just go, man. It's all right, you know? So he just, you know, I just passed, but this is what you're getting. It's so weird, you know, because I actually met people like that. So when I'm walking Brooklyn, I actually didn't know who's around me. You know, I could literally be in a Jewish neighborhood and this guy killed like 20 people in my town and I don't even know it. You know, you're just walking like a regular citizen, right? So it took me a long time to kind of get over that. Right. So, yeah.
You know, many Jewish people and Zionists, or maybe that's their excuse or whatever, fear that if Palestinians had their rights, if Palestinians were in internment camps and caged up, that they would seek revenge, that they would want to persecute the Israelites just as much as they have to them. What do Palestinians want?
Palestinians historically prove that they're too nice. My grandmother told me that, and she lived before 1948. She's like, Wallah, Grandma, when the Jews came off the ships from Germany, we were in Yafa giving them grapes, giving them food. We gave them a place to live on our plantations. We gave them jobs. We didn't know they had this plan. We were just helping them out. If we knew about this Israel thing, we would have never helped them. But we're just too nice. And I'm telling you, if Israel said, okay, Palestinians, come back to your land and let's make it a one state, right? Let's say, okay, a democratic state, equal rights to everyone. I honestly don't think Palestinians would be as much as a problem to the Israelis as the Israelis are to the Palestinians. It's not us that have the arrogance. It's them. It's not us that want, we want our land back. They want us off the land. Yeah. Do you get it? So it's a completely different mindset.
It's not you guys that have the supremacy,
It's
hatred.
It's a completely different mindset. Your property can be given back. Okay, I have a house. I'm fighting for my house. But if you offer me to buy it, so okay, I'll sell it. You know what I'm saying? Tell everyone, give them the right to come back. Every Palestinian should have the right to come back to their village, to their town, to their land, right? And once you give them the right to come back, and they're living in their land, if they want to sell it to somebody from China, they could sell it. They want to sell it to an Israeli, they could sell it. They want to sell it to someone from America. This is their right, though. It's their right to this land.
So you're saying the Israeli cause is for Jews only, and the Palestinian cause is for everyone, including Jews.
It's for everyone, including Jews. We don't have a problem coexisting with Jews. Right?
They have a problem coexisting with you?
Historically, Muslims in general never had an issue. They lived their golden ages during Islamic reign. We have a track record, a proven track record. They're the ones that don't. Their track record's the opposite.
So Palestinians would actually welcome a country, not just a state, but a country that has Palestinians and Jews living together.
And Christians.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't think any Palestinian would have an issue so long as this land, historically known as Palestine, is Palestine. Right? And this land is governed by its people, the people who are from it. Right? And not people who come from other countries and other states, right, that don't know anything about the land. Just receive citizenship like that and are expected to, they're literally shopping around. They have booths. I remember in Brooklyn, they used to have a table on the street. And they used to be like, want to go to Israel? Prove that your mom or dad is a Jew and get citizenship right now.
Wow.
Yeah, literally. And me as a Palestinian, I'm like, man, I wish I could get citizenship, bro. I can't even fly to the airport. Can't even go to the airport. That's 15 minutes from my village. You know what I'm saying? I have to go through custom and then Jordan and then this and that, like back in those days, right? So it was it's a very tough situation, akhi. We're living I think no one knows truly what a Palestinian lives like. I wish I could just have those GoPro, those cameras, just attach them to me and just show them my experience, my daily experience. Let me call my parents, call my cousins, talk to them, watch the news that I'm watching, travel to visit my parents in Palestine, right? And come back and let them see that whole process. That's it. I'm just another American that's just an American, a Palestinian American that's going to visit Palestine, right? If they see that, they're going to believe. They're going to know what's up.
Yeah, for sure.
So
that's a good idea. People should do that. So why do Israelis want to get rid of Palestinians and commit a genocide against them?
So our struggle as Palestinians is against Zionism, right? The belief that this land belongs to a certain people, right? That it only has to be for them. And it's not, like, none of us are entitled to this land, to them. And unfortunately, a lot of people bought into the Zionist narrative because they control a lot of, assets. They're very wealthy. They have influential positions in a lot of governments, in a lot of like economies of certain countries and whatnot. So it's easy to be a Zionist, right? Because everybody wants to get paid out and everybody wants to have that pull, right? But Palestine is like, it's a true and just cause to anyone with a conscience, right? Everybody who studies the political situation in Palestine knows very well that the Palestinians have a just cause and that they're the rightful owners of this land and they deserve to go back to their homes. And they have been unjustly treated, right, since 1948 till today. So, to be honest with you, Mahmoud, I just feel like people that don't read history will never really know the situation. People that just go to synagogue, go to church, and they hear their preachers speak, right? Or they just turn the TV on and listen to mainstream media, they are not going to know what is wrong with Palestine or why this conflict is going on. All they're going to see is the images that the Zionist propaganda chooses to portray of the Palestinians. And when you collectively put that together, that's how you get hate. Yesterday we saw the news in Chicago, right? A man just goes and stabs a child 26 times. A little Palestinian child. He stabs him 26 times and he said, "You don't deserve to live." So this is the result of the propaganda.
And that blows my mind. How is it that this has gotten to this level where Gaza is recognized by the United Nations as the world's largest outdoor prison?
Yeah.
There's a curfew for Palestinians. There is a certain amount of they have dietary restrictions. How many assets of food is allowed into the strip determines how much each one can eat, right? They control the water. Israelis control the water. They control everything. Palestinians can't even leave the Gaza Strip as they please or go.
No, they can't.
So how is that reality able to be shifted into a narrative that allows people to end up hating Palestinians who are being oppressed?
Well, it kind of shows you how, money talks, like they say, right? They got the money. The Palestinians don't have anything, right? Like, Israel is funded by the United States and by other strong, superpowers, the UK, France, and different countries. They all pay their dues to Israel, right? And I think the world feels like they need to settle it, but they can't settle it because there's so much at stake. It's such a sensitive region.
Yeah, Rahim, can you pull up? There'll be on the saved an image of Biden, and when you find that, just what Biden said here was so interesting. There we go. Go up, right there. Yep. Look at what he says here.
Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. It is the best $3 billion investment we made. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America?
It's the best $3 billion investment.
Yeah, it is because that's what they see it as, For the United States and for the West, Israel is a strong ally. A strong ally and a genuine ally. Why? Because it's not, unlike the other countries in the region, this isn't a government that is imposed on a people that are disconnected from the West. Do you get what I'm saying? Like when you look around in the region, you may have a government or a leader, a dictator, a king, a monarch, whatever it is, that pays their allegiance to the West, supports the West, but it isn't necessarily the case for the population that they're governing or ruling, right? Whereas in Israel, this body, this state that was established became a government and a people that pay their allegiance to the West, right? And therefore, they're a more genuine ally, right? And, because they came from the West and they're educated in the West, and which gave them an edge over the people of the region that weren't as educated as they are. Hence why Israel produces a lot, in technology, in the biomedical field and whatnot. They have a lot of research, a lot of inventions. But the Zionists pretty much hijacked this religion, this faith, right? To establish what they want, right? And to get what they want. And it's unfortunate that they took this group of people that believe in God, right? That believe in one of the scriptures that God revealed, right? And they're using it to justify their presence and their occupation and their oppression of a whole people, right? And it's what their God tells them not to do in their divine scripture, right? So if they were just to go back to the Torah and follow it, that would be better for them. But it's unfortunate they took it over and they found their extreme interpretations, just like you have, certain people that misinterpret, quotes from the Quran and from the Sunnah. In Islam, you have these like extreme groups that come with these extreme ideologies that don't represent mainstream Islam, right? You have the same thing, but the only thing is, how in Islam, when like ISIS came out and they had their own, twisted understanding of Islam and whatnot, it kind of grows and then that's it. Islam levels it out. The mainstream Muslims don't accept it. We can't digest that extremism. Islam is just so versatile, it's strong, it's robust. You can't just come in and hijack it. But it's unfortunate. The Zionists literally hijacked that whole religion right now, and they're using it as a plight. They're just using it to take over. And
Zionism is a political movement. Purely
political movement. With worldly, material gains in their sight. Like they don't care about the religion. They don't care about the practicing Jew and what no, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, look at every president of Israel from the beginning till the end. They haven't been, to my knowledge, and somebody could prove me wrong, but to my knowledge, they've always been from like the Ashkenazi Jews and these other Jews that were attributed to Judaism way later on. They aren't from like the 12 tribes, right? Of the Israelites. Like
Eastern European.
Yeah, they're like Eastern European. So.
Ustadh Morad Awad.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any final comments, anything for us?
I think, just to wrap this all up, I really appreciate this discussion and the questions that you posed. I believe that they're very important, and I was happy to be on this podcast, and I look forward to watching this episode and what you're gonna do with it. So I just want to, tell the viewers one thing. I want to tell the viewers, send a message.
Sure.
Be fair. Be just. Be with the oppressed. Be with the oppressed and not the oppressor. Be a human before anything else, because we are humans before anything else. And respect human life, innocent human life, and appreciate it equally. And when you do that, you'll truly understand the Palestinian cause and you'll feel it with the Palestinians. But until that, I pray for you and I pray for everybody out there that, God guides us to the straight path.
Amen.
Thank
you. Ustadh Morad, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Actually, I really do hope you enjoyed it. I know we enjoyed having you.
Of course, I enjoyed it, man.
Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be playing a couple other videos about Palestine. Thank you. This kid says this beautifully.
I would like to add my voice to the chorus here today in opposition to this ridiculous resolution. At a time when the rest of the world is condemning Israel for committing war crime after war crime, Chicago is fiddling around on whether to condemn Hamas. By doing so, Chicago will be doing its part in enabling the genocide of Palestinians. And this resolution acts like it's on the side of innocent civilians. So in that case, I'd like to add, are you considering a resolution condemning Israel for using white phosphorus against the civilian population? Are you considering condemning Israel for its planned war crime of forced removal of 1 million Palestinians from northern Gaza? Are you going to condemn them for cutting off food, water, and electricity to Gaza, another war crime called collective punishment? Did it ever cross your mind to condemn Israel when they assassinated Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Akleh in broad daylight, or when they brutalized the people carrying her coffin peacefully? or when Israeli snipers killed innocent peaceful protesters throughout the March of Return? Did the people in office before you ever consider condemning Israel at any point? Since its inception, when it crammed a country full of people into a 60-mile corner of their own country, creating the largest concentration camp in history, the largest open-air prison in the world? The answer is a resounding no. You never considered it, nor did your ancestors. But unfortunately for you, times have changed. The world is increasingly aware of the crimes of Israel and increasingly aware of the framework of politicians who enable their continued apartheid by resolutions such as these. And in a city like Chicago, with majority black and brown people who have experienced the apartheid-like conditions of oppression in the United States, a generation of young people have emerged who understand immediately that we have everything in common with the Palestinian people and nothing in common with the brutal Zionists under who they suffer. A generation of people who are not surprised when we find out that our politicians, up to our president, spread lies about 40 babies being beheaded in order to rationalize genocide. We're only surprised that they're forced to walk those lies back. But of course, the damage is done. People are still spewing the debunked lies about rape and massacre of babies, even here in this very meeting, when actually there is endless evidence of Israel having killed over 500 babies in the last 48 hours alone, having dropped more bombs in 24 hours than the U.S. dropped on Afghanistan in 1 year. And finally, let it be known that condemning the attack as the actions of some fringe group misses the point of what's going on. The attacks were carried out by a broad coalition of groups from every section of Palestinian society, not just Hamas. That coalition represents a people determined to attain freedom at any cost, and they have arrived at this point in the face of a broad coalition of right-wing Zionists and their supporters like those in the city council who would start a meeting with a prayer calling for their attempt at freedom, a second Holocaust, for are so silent you could hear a rat piss on cotton when innocent, peaceful Palestinians are annihilated day in and day out like the Native Americans of this country. If it were another time, these same people would be condemning Africans for rebelling against their slave masters during slavery, such as Nat Turner or in the Haitian Revolution. Thank you.
Wow, that was powerful, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Powerful.
It was so powerful. I said I have to mention it on this podcast, what he said.